Go ahead. Okay. Thank you for attending today. So today I'm Elliot. I'm a research scientist at DeepMind. I'm 6 or 7 months ago, I finished my PhD. Marcus Hutter and Joel Vaness as my two supervisors, and then joined DeepMind's safety team. I've been working there since. And today I'm going to talk about mathematical approaches to AGI safety. So already we've got a typo on the first slide, so that doesn't bode well. All right, let's get into it.
Wait, what was the typo? Was that the G in
It should be
AGI?
two, not of.
Oh, of. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry. Okay, so yeah, today's talk just quickly going over the contents. I'm just going to give a bit of an introduction. I'm going to go over these 4 topics of these mathematical approaches, and then conclusion. And then afterwards, we've got some time for discussion and questions. All right. Also, yeah, if anyone would like just can ask a question, that's fine too. I'm okay with that. Okay. So first things first, as I assume everyone here is probably aware, highly intelligent, capable AI systems are likely to be developed in the near future. Timelines depending on who you ask, but if you just look at this year alone, it's every week is an AI advancement, right? We had AlphaCode was like at the start of the year. We've had Gato, Sparrow, all these like stable diffusion and these text to image models. Like every single week we've got a new AI advancement. I mean, there was a diplomacy one by Meta, I think a few days ago. And there was even Meta also released this one where they would write like literature reviews, although it was taken down quickly. I don't know if anyone saw that, but yeah. So this highly intelligent, capable AI, like really may be developed very soon, and the development of these systems could have very dire consequences. If anyone here has like read Bostrom's Superintelligence or Stuart Russell's Human Compatible or Toby Ord's Precipice, or these give kind of good overviews of this. But I mean, this is an AI Safety group, so I assume everyone's kind of familiar with the potential risks with highly intelligent, capable systems.
Mm.
So in general, we would like to minimize these risks, right? This is kind of the goal of AI and AGI safety. And then in this talk, I'm going to go over 4 possible approaches to this problem, which use the lens of mathematics. So there are lots and lots of approaches, more than one I can go over in this talk. But yeah, I'm going to discuss what I think are like 4 of the more mathematical ways to tackle this problem. Cool. So the first one, I'm calling universal artificial intelligence. So I don't know if we can do hands up, but is anyone here familiar with Marcus Hutter's AIXI model or universal artificial intelligence?
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's awesome. I like that.
I've heard of it.
Heard of it? Okay, cool. All right. So when working on AGI safety or AI safety, the ideal thing we would be is if we had the agents and we could run these like safety experiments or like probe it with these safety questions. I mean, assuming we don't want it to escape the box or something like that. But yeah, ideally we would have it and we could run these experiments on it. But sadly or luckily, depending on who you ask, no one has developed an AGI system yet, that I know of at least.
Now's where we stop you and we really like. is he telling the truth or is he just like? This is the public relations face of DeepMind.
Yeah. Stop being recorded. Remember?
Yeah. We've got to stop record. We've got to cut that. Yeah. So to my knowledge, yeah, but nobody has currently developed an AGI system. So what is the next best thing we can do to some of these 2 questions? Well, we could use a formal theory of AGI and try and use that to answer some of these safety problems or questions. And this is where universal artificial intelligence and the AIXI model comes in. But what is universal artificial intelligence? Well, it's this theory developed by Marcus Hutter in the early 2000s of how to make optimal sequential decisions under uncertainty. And you could also see it as a theory of how an optimal agent or like an AGI might act, or will act. It combines ideas from like decision theory, Bayesian probability theory, information theory, algorithmic information theory, and reinforcement. Okay, but like, this is a mathematics group, as I understand it. So what is it like mathematically? So in UAI, we assume the general reinforcement learning setup. So this means we have an agent, which I'll just call Pi, interactive environment, say mu.
Elliot. I think someone doesn't have their mic muted. Maybe it's you, Alexander.
Could be me, sorry.
It's okay. So we have an agent Pi interacting with environment mu. In classic reinforcement learning setup, the agent takes actions and then receives observations and rewards from the environment. And this just keeps repeating. We do not make, we really just generally make minimal assumptions we can on the environment. So very important, we don't assume that the environment depends on the most recent like action observation. So we don't make the Markovian assumption. We don't. This is not an MDP. And the goal of the agent in this setup is to maximize the expected future reward, so known as the value function. But the agent does not know the environment in advance. So, it can also never really know the true environment because you only get this partial information from the observations. And we try to make the most minimal assumptions that we can. And we argue that the weakest assumption you can make about the environment is that it is semi-computable. You can just say computable. Under these conditions, what is the optimal agents? I would claim it is AIXI, but I will get to the definitions in a second. So first, just a quick aside on notation. We'll use mathcal A, O, and R for the finite sets of actions, observations, and rewards. Mathcal E for the set of percepts, because usually we'll talk about like percepts just together, so it's easier to write E instead of O cross R, and small e for the observation reward pair. Then we'll use H for the set of finite interaction history. So this is the clean star notation. Everyone's familiar with this notation? Yes. Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. And then we'll just use subscript like x1 to t for the first t. Oh, yeah. And then x less than t is just everything up to t minus 1. And we'll use nu to just some arbitrary environments. Okay. Most of you are probably familiar with the definition of the value function in some form. In the UAI setup, it's it uses this history component. So the value function is a policy and environments and discounts given some history h less than t, which if we expanded it would look like a1, o1, r1 up to at minus 1, ot minus 1, rt minus 1. So here is defined as the expected future reward. So the expected future reward from the interaction between pi and nu. So it takes pi and nu as arguments with this discount here. So this, and then given the history. And then you can have the optimal value function, and then you can have an optimal policy with respect to an environment, which is just this argmax. Yeah. Is this kind of clear for everyone?
I'm processing a bit the role of the t. So the expectation on the right is the discounted expected future reward given a history, and then you follow the policy pi. That's it, right?
So it's like pi and nu you should think of as like probability distributions over actions. Or pi is a probability distribution over actions conditioned on histories, and nu is a probability distribution over percepts conditioned on histories and actions.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I guess I was in my head. I was in the Markovian setting, I suppose. Yep, I got it.
Yep. And then this history will get longer and longer as they interact. But yeah, in the MDP setting, you replace this h less than t with just an s for state, right? Or st or something like that. Any questions about this definition value function? No. Okay. So we can also similarly define the Q value or action value as it's the same sort of thing, but with an action, and it's pretty much the same thing. Here we just condition on the history and the action, and you can run it in this what's called the Bellman form on the right here. Okay, so everyone all right with this?
Sorry, I think I forgot what curly E was.
So that is the set of observations and rewards. So percepts.
Oh, right, yep.
So if we go back here.
Yeah, thanks.
No worries. Yeah, I mean the Bellman form is pretty compact, and I mean you could just expand this out and yeah. Okay, cool. All right. But so we have this value function. So we would the optimal agents, like I said here, we can just like do this argmax, right? Just search over the space of policies, compute the value function, and do that. And then we've got the optimal agents. But the thing is, we don't a priori know what environment we're in. So how do we like use this value function? Well, we act like a universal, hence the universal Bayesian. We construct this class M of environments, and we make it so large that whatever the true environment we're interacting with is in this class, and then we compute the Bayesian mixture over that class. What is the Bayesian mixture? Well, here is how we will define it over the Bayesian mixture of environments. It is the sum over all environments in our class with a posterior over that environment, and then the probability of those percepts in that environment given the history and action. And you just compute the posterior normal Bayesian way. And then eventually would the prior would have this prior on the each environment. Is this sort of clear, everyone?
So this W term, this is really just kind of like a posterior, is it? Like
yes.
Yeah.
It's
okay. Okay. Yep. So this is the predictive distribution.
Yeah, exactly. So if the history is generated from one of the environments in this class, your like this W will kind of like converge to the true environment
under some regularity assumptions.
Well, as long as it's in here, as long as the true environment is in M, it should learn that true environment. Yeah, okay. And then what prior do we pick over the environment? So we have to choose some prior, and we would argue that the simplicity prior is quite good, which is 2 to the minus the cosmographic complexity of the environment. You could for example use a uniform prior, but that doesn't really work too well with accountable. If you pick accountable class M, it's fine for finite, maybe fine for uncountable, but it doesn't really work too well for accountable class. And there's other reasons why you might not want to do this. And you could pick like a we would argue that the simplicity prior is best, but I don't want to go too much into this because I don't want to get too far from the main safety topic today. Okay, so let's say we're given this, we can compute this Bayesian mixture here over some like class and given some prior. Then we'll say that given this mixture, the most intelligent agent, AIXI, is defined as acting optimally with respect to this mixture. So like very simply, the AIXI definition is just the optimal agent with respect to this Bayesian mixture. So now you're all experts in universal artificial intelligence. You all know how it works. All link them to pieces.
We're ready to build it.
You don't need to read Marcus's book. What?
We're ready to build it, right? We can just implement
ready
this
to build
right
it.
now.
Exactly. All it needs is running.
I mean, I do have a question about that. I mean, it was my understanding that this is basically it. There's not much more to the theory than its definition, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, is there more?
I mean, when you ask like is there more to the definition, or like is there more that we can do with the definition?
Yes, the last.
Yeah. Okay. So there are plenty of things we can do with the definition. So, like for example, probably the most important results that you can have about AIXI is what's called the self-optimizing theorem, and it essentially says that if there exists a policy, like given some set of environments, if there exists a policy that is optimal in all of these environments, or converges to the optimal value function, then AIXI will also do this. So there's other results about it, like it being Pareto optimal, and these type of things. But this self-optimizing is probably the strongest result for AIXI, I would say.
Yeah, but this is basically what already happens for Solomon induction, right? If you have a better forecaster, you'll sort of absorb them.
I would say it's actually weaker than what happens in Solomon induction. Like Solomon induction convergence is a stronger result, because it's an easier setting, right? Like you're just doing prediction. You're not affecting the environment.
Yeah. So what is weaker about it? Is it converge in a different way or something?
Yeah. So Solomonov induction it just like converges. It doesn't need that assumption that there exists a policy that there exists. I mean, in that case, it would be there exists a predictor that converges. Like Solomon induction will just always converge, like by Solomonov's theorem. Yeah. Whereas AIXI needs this kind of additional assumption. But this is because you are like also generating this history because you're taking these actions. Yeah. And so being in the reinforcement learning setting makes things more difficult. So you can't get as strong results, essentially. Yeah. Any other questions? Everyone understands AIXI. It's perfect. But I don't want to go into this too much. It's supposed to be a safety talk today. So yeah, how can this theory of AIXI help us with AGI safety? Well, AIXI and kind of the theory of universal artificial intelligence can help us like answer and resolve some of these AGI safety problems that can often find themselves in like less rigorous settings. A lot of these AGI safety problems, can arise from just like very philosophical and very wordsy, not formal things. So getting it to be more concrete in this like UAI framework is very good, I think. So just to give you a few examples of kind of like the work I'm talking about here. So there's this paper by Michael Cohen that talks about like the implication of general agents in the UAI framework being asymptotically optimal, which means they converge to the optimal value function. And he proves in this paper that if an agent satisfies this asymptotic optimality condition, then it will die with probability 1.
What does die?
Another paper.
What does it die
What?
mean?
What does die mean? Actually, so it's kind of interesting. So in the paper, we did not specify the exact definition here. We kind of left it open but we gave some examples of what die could mean, because we didn't want to stick to a specific definition and then people say, oh, that's not what that doesn't mean die. But we actually it's just there are many potential definitions that you can come up with for dying in this setting.
I just don't have any clue what you're getting at with that statement. Could you like give me something?
An example.
So the agent stops being able to interact with its environments
Simply because it's spending all its resources computing, or like what is?
No, because it falls into a trap, or it kills itself, or something like this. So it causes itself to not be able to function.
So this is like some kind of upper bound on competence. Like there's
Yeah. Well, it's more like it's actually more like if you're asymptotically optimal, then you have to explore a lot to satisfy.
Yeah.
this
I
thing.
see.
And if you explore a lot, you're going to like see like, oh, what happens if I like shoot myself in the head?
Yeah.
Like,
Got it.
because you know,
and if you don't do that, you're not optimal. So
exactly.
you know, you're wrong.
That
You
is
should be
exactly
shooting yourself in the head.
that is exactly what happens. Yes.
Got it. Okay.
It's because like, you know, maybe like shooting yourself in your head does actually give you like really good reward. You have to test it. So yeah. Yes, that was a paper with Michael Cohen and myself, and some more papers by Michael Cohen and myself where we showed that like if you introduce a mentor, you can show that you can actually do safe exploration while maintaining an agent which is still intelligent. So a mentor, like a human mentor that the agent can defer to when it's not sure if an action is safe or something. And then there's some other. Yep.
Sorry, just want to unpack this one like a similar amount. So that mentor is like, they obviously have to know something about the environment for this to. So this is something like, if you have a mentor that has a given level of capability or safety, you can match that level of safety with your agent, or improve perhaps. I don't know.
Yes.
If you allow deferring to the kind of safe baseline mentor policy.
Yeah. So the statement is there's the two statements that you will defer to the mentor like whenever something like it is unsafe. So you will be as safe as the mentor, and you will be more intelligent than the mentor. So you'll be more capable, or the agent will be more capable. Because you don't want something that like constantly defers to the mentor, because then what's really the point of the agent, right? So you want it to defer to the mentor when it's really unsure, but you still want it to like make intelligent decisions and choices. But you know, like these papers are all available online, and I will have a bibliography at the end if you want to see the names of these papers and read them in more detail. Another one by Laurent Rousseau and Stuart Armstrong discuss under what conditions a universal agent like AIXI would be okay with being interrupted, so it would not stop itself being interrupted. And then some more work in the past looked at what agent death means in this UAI setting, and came up with two kind of interesting definitions of death and showed that they're actually equivalent. Just briefly, the two definitions, one of them was this concept of state death, so that there is like some state or like observation that once the agents like receives that observation, they receive that observation forever, and they're in the death state. And then the second definition was something kind of cool which was like a semi-measured death. And this is sort of a consequence of, so when you do Slomanov induction, it's not actually a true measure, or the Slomanov prior is not a true measure, because it's not complete. It has essentially like you run overall programs with Slomanov induction, and some of these programs halt, right? So it's not always gonna, like, the programs won't just output zeros and ones. Some of them will halt, and this gives you a this like semi-measured gap that Slomanov induction has. And one of the definitions of death they had in this paper was that like this your model of the universe halts essentially. So like you enter this semi-measured gap and your universe halts. And they showed that these two definitions, the state one and the semi-measured one, are equivalent. This paper. And then there's some other work that's looked at when universal agents will be incentivized to like modify themselves and their policies and that kind of thing. And the more recent one by Tom Everett here, it essentially came down to like how you define the value function. So whether you define the value function as a function of your future current self, or like your future modified self, or this kind of stuff, and you can get different behaviors based on this.
I have a broad question.
Yes.
How well do you think a worm could reason about humans from assumptions of optimality? And if the answer is not very well, what is the reason to expect that us reasoning about AGIs can be safely done on the basis of them being anywhere near optimal. I mean, I find this mathematical framework attractive, but how confident are you that the behavior of AGIs has anything to do?
You're giving me the easy questions, I see.
Yeah.
Well, I think so. So there's a few reasons to be maybe positive about this. Like, you know, I think the the Bayesian learning is the ideal way to learn, basically. Yeah. So like the agents described here, this is like the idealized how an agent should learn. But I mean, well, if it is the case, yeah, if it is the case that, like, you know, we have no hope, then, well, you know, it doesn't really matter what we do, right? But I think this is one of the more promising ways in which we can model AGI. But like, I do think there is some hope for this, I guess.
Yeah, it's not really a criticism. I suppose it's more like I don't see many better ideas. So I'm
exactly. It's, you know, like it might be the case,
and then just sit around waiting for the paper clips,
waiting for the foom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Does anyone have any questions about these papers before I move on?
I feel like, if you don't mind, I'll add my 2 cents to that previous question. I think models of optimality give us like an upper bound on what we're up against. And so, for example, you can get a result like, I made my system secure to an AIXI model. Therefore, it's secure to any real model, which is going to be sort of less intelligent in some ways. So that seems like a useful way of using this kind of framework of optimal decision making.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just to reiterate, like these particular papers and this kind of line of work is like very mathematical. I mean, if you go and read through like some of the Cohen papers, you know, it requires like serious probability theory results. So just compared to like the more philosophical work in AGI safety, so this is one of the more promising ones that requires mathematics. But I think if everyone's right, I'll move on to the next section.
Question about that. Sorry, what is the previous? Could you show the previous slide again?
This one.
Okay, no. Okay, next one. Yeah, it's a pretty surprise. Maybe you said this. I had a short connection problem, but surprising result. Any agent which is asymptotically optimal will die.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. The paper's called "Curiosity Killed the Cat and the Asymptotically Optimal Agent." But sorry, what's your question?
Oh yeah, how is that? Why? That seems like a weird. Like, what? Why is that the case?
Yeah, I did explain this before, but I'll go over it again because I reconnect. No, it's all right. So essentially, to be asymptotically optimal, you have to do sufficient exploration. So in the AI framework, AIXI is actually not asymptotically optimal because it doesn't explore enough. But there are some other agents like BaseX or Thompson sampling agent that are, or INC, the inquisitive agent. So asymptotically optimal requires you to explore enough, and if you explore enough to be asymptotically optimal, you will fall into traps and do things like shoot yourself in the head because you know it could. There's a chance it'll give you positive reward.
Okay.
How it works. But yeah, I would recommend reading the paper because we go into pretty clear detail with the definitions, everything.
Interesting, fascinating. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So this UAI was kind of like one of the 4 approaches I had. Another one is verification. These like mathematical approaches, let's say. So the stakes are like extremely high for this in this AGI safety topic. So we like really want to be sure that our system we develop is safe. And humans like checking the code is maybe not enough, or humans checking the proofs is maybe not enough. So what can we do instead? We could use computer verification. And like I'm going to claim this comes in at least 2 forms. So you could do verification that current systems are doing what you think they should be doing. So things like neural networks and transformers and stuff. And the other form of verification could be the mechanization of safe AGI theory. So I'm not, the ideal would be that we have this like form verification of the safe AGI theory, and we can apply it to like, GPT-10, something like this, and check that it is indeed verify that it is indeed safe. So in the first form of like what I'll call current systems verification, we have things like there's some work showing efficient techniques verifying certain properties of neural networks, or like checking like the robustness for like, arbitrary activation functions in like neural networks, or just formally formally verifying safety properties of neural networks. But then there is way more than this. This is not like the area I'm too familiar with, but there is a lot of work on this, and it has a lot of overlap with interpretability and adversarial examples. This is like the current system verification approach. And then there's like the mechanization approach, where people in the past have mechanized computability theory, lambda calculus, Turing machines. I've done some work mechanizing Kolmogorov complexity. There's been some other very recent work mechanizing reinforcement learning and infinite horizon MDPs.
Could you elaborate on what you mean by mechanizing these things?
So mechanization is like for these theories we have textbooks and these kind of things, but we have like theorems and the proofs and whatever. But maybe we don't trust what humans are doing, so we like write these in formal language in our computer, and then we get the computer to verify that like these are correct. So basically, it involves rewriting like all the proofs, and you have to do it like really step by step to make sure that.
So you mean just putting it in a proof, like formalizing it in a proof assistant?
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yeah, that is what mechanization means. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So something like Lean or Hold4 or Isabelle or these type of things. And there's even been some recent work on AI systems like writing these form proofs themselves. So soon enough we'll get them to be able to prove the safety properties about themselves. And some like recursive thing.
So you're talking here about like formally proving something about neural networks themselves, which I find pretty far-fetched. I think it's hard to imagine proving anything.
In which one? The current systems one, or the mechanization one?
Well, this isn't far-fetched. There are papers, I believe it. I mean the previous slide. So you give me GPT-3 and you make some claim about it. I don't think there's any useful claim you're going to prove and formally verify. I could imagine that there's a box you put it in which has an API that you interact with it with or through, and you might prove some kind of safety properties of the box. Do you really have in mind that people are going to understand and prove theorems about networks with 5 trillion parameters?
This is, I think this is quite a difficult problem, and I think the more worrying thing for this is that the capabilities are just going to like go much faster than the people doing this proof stuff. So, but people are trying. It's like there is a lot of work on interpretability of these networks. Trying
that
to
one, Catt et al. 2017. What is an example of a property that they verified about a neural network?
Which one, Catt?
That top one. Yeah.
I can't remember off the top of my head. I mean, I think it's pretty basic. It's not like safety related or anything. It's just that like it's that they're doing what we think they should be doing, kind of things.
Like they won't misclassify more than a certain percentage of examples or something like that? Is it about generalization, or is it?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
But
I guess I can check the papers.
Yeah. But this area has a lot of work on it. But yeah, like you say, it is kind of going to be very hard, and especially this like interpretability component of it, being able to extract useful or prove useful things about this 100 trillion parameter model might be difficult. Yeah. Okay. But this is also got, especially this mechanization thing, has a very mathematical like flavor to it. So I thought it's worth mentioning. And, ideally, we would have like someone mechanize the AIXI theory. I mean, that was my plan at one point. That's why I started with the common world complexity. But then it turned out it's pretty difficult, and just like proving 1 + 1 = 2 is already a struggle. So or mechanizing it, I mean, yeah.
I guess I could imagine just very powerful proof assistant being useful for more general AI safety research, rather than sort of directly verifying that a system is correct or something.
How so?
How soon or how so?
How so? Like, what could it do? That would be.
Well, there are many. Well, if you have a mathematical approach to AI safety, then there are often like many mathematical questions, and you can, if you have a powerful system that can prove stuff itself, then that could be useful.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. Okay. So next approach I'm going to go over is this causality approach. It's very similar to the UAI one in its kind of idea. It's that basically, yeah, when we talk about these safety problems, there's like a lot of confusion can arise from lack of formality of some of these questions. We say like a very powerful agent will do this, but then we like don't really back it up, or it will be incentivized to do this, but it's kind of just loose English, and English is a terrible language for this kind of stuff too. So and for a lot of these questions, even probability theory and expected utility theory can't like give us all the answers we need. But maybe causality theory can. So this is like Judea-Pearl's causality approach. It gives us the tools to describe many aspects of AGI safety. So like, for example, here's some of the current work that on this topic. Someone saw it. Emoji. Someone really likes this a lot, I see. Yeah, so like, for example, this first paper here like takes a lot of these AI safety frameworks like reward modeling and cooperative inverse RL, and puts them into the causal framework using causal influence diagrams. There was another approach, another piece of work on like using causal frameworks to show how agents will react to their actions being modified. Like if the agent took an action, but then actually a different action happened, like how will it, like what does that mean, and how will it react? And then some more recent work on understanding like instrumental control incentives. So this is like, I mean, it's very relevant for safety. And then very recent work, I think this one came out maybe like a month or two ago, on like, what is an agent? Like where does the system end and the environment begin? Like trying to really nail down like what is agency in this, using this causal framework. And then another recent paper showing minimizing, like for an agent to minimize harm, it has to like have this causal understanding, have this like causal structure somewhere. And if you want to see these papers, or I mean, this is like less than half, I think, of the papers. Just this causal incentives website contains like all of this work.
Alexander,
and Tom Everett,
sorry to interrupt. I was just asking Alexander if the Kenton paper is the one you were talking about a few weeks ago. Alexander was giving a talk on exactly this kind of thing.
I don't know at all. There's like 5 people on this thing, so I don't know if it's Kenton.
It was called like definitions of agency or something like this. Or...
Yeah. Yeah, I do have a problem with their citations, but the rest is okay.
Okay. So there's a lot of people work on this. It's kind of Tom Everett has been like really spearheading this. I think his name's on basically all these papers. He is also used to be a PhD student of Marcus Hutter, worked on this AIXI stuff in the past. and is now at DeepMind.
So perhaps AIXI is important because it attracts clever students and not because it's actually directly useful.
I mean, yeah, maybe. Yeah, but yeah, this is a very mathematical approach to these safety problems, and really like framing them in this way. So I thought it might be interesting to the people here.
That's kind of how AIXI works, right? It absorbs better students.
Yeah, the way I do it.
I have a question about this actually, especially the determining what is an agent thing. I mean, I need to read the paper, but I wonder what's the advantage of using a causal framework here. I've always thought, and never like looked into it, but I've always kind of had the gut feeling that something like minimum description lengths and overall complexity would be helpful. Like, for example, this part of a system is an agent if it is its behavior, its sort of observations we get from this part of the system are most efficiently, most compactly described as like with a reward function or something.
So that sounds very similar to, there was a paper by Laurent also on like what is an agent, and he did have this kind of like compression definition. I don't remember the title off the top of my head. They do cite it in the Kenton paper, so if you just go to that paper and look at the citations and look at for Laurent also, you'll see, yeah, he has this paper where he's like uses this compression approach to define agency. So maybe that's useful for you to check out.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they actually have a paragraph on it in the Kenton paper. I think they like don't like it or something. If I remember, they're like, oh, this doesn't work because of X, Y, Z.
It's not.
Yeah, okay.
It's
I'll
not
look at that
causal.
paragraph.
What?
It's not causal, and if they're good students of
causal,
Perl,
yeah.
they have to be opposed to it.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, this is the causal framework, and then the last one I'm going to talk about today. I'm calling robustness and guarantees, because I wasn't really sure, but a good name of it. Yeah, but basically, we want for at least our current systems, definitely, we want guarantees that will not like behave in like really unexpected ways. So one approach to this could be to what I call robustify like some of the core components of our models. What do I mean by that? Or like what are some examples of our core components? For an agent, they're like the planning and the learning capability. What do I mean by robustify here? I mean essentially like make them in such a way or build them in such a way that we are able to have these like strong theoretical results about their behavior, basically. So like with neural networks, we have the only theoretical result we kind of have is this like pretty terrible universal function approximation results, and we can't really say too much more about them. Like there's no nice theoretical result about catastrophic forgetting, for example, or some of these other like things we have in neural networks. So like as I said, the core components of an agent are like this planning and learning components, and an attempt to robustify this like searching and planning is this thing called Levin tree search, and like a robustified MLP, because there's like this gated linear network work. So yeah.
Yeah, could you say more? Could you say more about that one?
The gated. Yeah, I'll go into them in future slides.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, this could be seen as like building safety into the models. So like, yeah, instead of just taking what we have and then trying to say things about them. So just briefly, Levin tree search, some work by Laurent also and others. It's like this search model with these guarantees about like these strong theoretical guarantees about like, for example, the number of nodes needed to search before finding its least cost solution. And then it's been extended a bit with this policy guided heuristic search. And yeah, so it's basically they're building these methods. So this is like better than A star in a sense, because we do have these like strong guarantees about it. But building these methods where we can say stuff, which would argue is maybe more robust than like traditional methods.
Is this related to Levin's search from?
It is related to Levin's search. Actually, you could
so
argue that Levin's search is a specific case. I mean, this is a generalization of Levin's search.
Okay. So when you say there are theoretical guarantees about the number of nodes, is that like in the same sense that AIXI has theoretical guarantees about its performance? It's because it's basically a universal search algorithm that is sort of searching all possible trees.
They are different guarantees, but yes, they're both like guarantees about performance. Yes, that's correct.
Oh, I mean, are they sort of similarly theoretical but highly idealized? Like Levin search is something like run every program like just one step at a time, and like eventually you find the right answer. No matter
in a very specific order as well. You can't just you have to.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So is it? But that gives you a huge performance hit if you ever imagine doing it in practice. So is this in a similar kind of category, or is there something different about this?
No. So Levin tree search is definitely inspired. Like Levin search is a specific case of Levin tree search. But Levin tree search is a generalization, but it's also actually quite practical. I think in their paper they like use this to solve. I think it's Soccer Barn to like kind of some small games like this. So this is not as impractical as Levin search, for example, let's say, or like any of these really idealized one. But it still has these nice properties. But yeah, I would recommend checking out the paper because it's a pretty good description of it. But yes, it is related to Levin search. To answer your question. And then so it was the Levin tree search I mentioned, and then gated linear networks. So this was introduced by Joel Van Ness and others. It's this like backpropagation of free neural architecture, which has like several useful properties over traditional MLPs. It has this like universal learning and online learning capability. It has this, it's resistant to catastrophic forgetting, and they prove this. And it has like, it's very easy to interpretability compared to like normal neural architectures. And then it's been like extended like in some more recent papers. Yeah.
What's the performance hit?
What's the performance hit? What do you mean?
I mean, I guess. Sorry, it's a loaded way to ask the question. I'm thinking that I would have heard about this before now if it was like
if this
also
is good,
better than Transformers.
if this is so good, why aren't we using it? That's I don't think that's entirely like about the performance hit. I think so. I mean, definitely in the online learning setting. So in machine learning, you can do like normal batch train tests setting. This is like what you usually do in supervised learning, what a lot of current systems do. But you can also do this online learning where you like interacting with at each step and then updating and doing this type of thing, and then you're evaluating constantly. And in the online learning setting, I would say it's better than the current architectures, but it is like, one, people don't really care about that setting too much, even though they should, because reality is online. And two, it's just like hasn't been marketed very well. I think. Yeah. I mean,
okay.
I think it really is quite good.
Reality is online.
Reality is online. Yes, I did say reality is online. We are constantly interacting. Like we don't exist in a train test split, you know.
No, I understand.
Yeah. But yeah, I would recommend reading. I think the 2021 paper is like 9 pages, and it's a very short read. Goes over it. But I think it is interesting. But I mean, here it is more an example of just like a robustified NLP that I'm trying to give. Yeah. But I can't say why it hasn't taken off. Yeah, that's because Schmidt-Huber hasn't claimed that he did it in the 90s or something. I don't know. Like,
snap.
Yeah.
Schmidt-Huber did what in the 90s?
No. I said it hasn't taken off because Schmidt-Huber didn't claim he did it in the 90s.
Must not be a good idea.
Exactly. Yeah, that's how you know your idea is like good. Yeah. Okay. So that's the gated linear networks. Yeah, we've got a little bit of time, so I'll go through this quickly. Yeah, like I said, many ways mathematicians and mathematics can help the AGI safety problem. It is quite a newish field. I mean, depending how old you count things, but a very good literature on AGI safety by Tom Everett up to 2018 here, and then like in more detail, you can check out his thesis called "Towards Safe Artificial General Intelligence," I think. But yeah, it's thank you for inviting me to this talk.
Thanks so much. That's great.
Thank you.
Briefly go over the bibliography so the recording can like see the paper names and everything. Let's do one at a time. And then yeah, I guess we've got 5 minutes for questions. I wasn't sure how long this was going to take.
Yeah, well, there's no time limit from our side. We don't want to impose on your time beyond what time you have.
I think I've got time.
Okay. Yeah, regarding the discovering agency, so just to spell that out a little bit, so the idea is potentially that you don't think a system is agentic, and then discover, much to your horror, that it is and is making plans you don't like. Is that the kind of thinking there, or is it more?
I didn't read through their paper fully, so I might not be the best man to answer that completely. But yes, I mean, in general, like strategic awareness is something that you really want to be careful of with your agents.
I just asked because your formulation sort of presumes agency from the beginning in some sense, so it's not. Like,
I mean, the UAI one definitely does, yes. But this like causality approach, you don't necessarily assume that, I think.
Yeah, there's this idea. I also didn't read the paper, but I think probably converge on the same idea, which is you have to find some interface. I think they assume that it's given, but maybe you want to find some markup blanket or something like that. Then you want to intervene both on the environment and on what their possible options are, and then see how this interface reacts, and from that sort of construct what the putative agent wants or is able to do. I think that's about the idea. A very sensible idea.
Yeah, that sounds sensible.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have more, but I'll let somebody else have a turn before I go again.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
This is it's the theme of the talk was like how can mathematicians get into AI safety, and this is relevant, but not something that you touched on in the slide. But probing the more kind of tacit knowledge that you might have picked up.
Would you be able to speak up? Sorry, I can't
oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was not speaking loud. Can you hear me okay now?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So the more tacit question is, you've come through this process, done a PhD, and ended up working at DeepMind. Since then, Marcus Hutter is no longer at ANU. He now works at DeepMind. I take it that he's not taking PhD students. A couple of the people that you mentioned working on interesting work in this area also happen to work at DeepMind. Obviously, that's maybe part of why you mentioned their work, but notably, that they're in a position at DeepMind, not at an academic institution taking PhD students. So, you guys are kind of pulled up the ladder after you've gone through. Where do I go? I'm looking for PhD supervisors.
Where do you go? I mean, so there are definitely still people like doing PhDs in AGI Safety. So there's, I would say, like the Future of Humanities Institute at Oxford. I know there's like a few people there, like doing a lot of safety work. Like Ryan Carey, I think, is there. Michael Cohen just finished his PhD or is finishing his PhD there, and neither of them were supervised by Marcus. So like at Oxford, there's definitely people working on that. There's like Stuart Russell's group.
Yes.
Doing what they called Bear or Chai. Yeah. Okay. So they're.
I'm actually not sure what the relationship between Chai and Bear is, but
yeah, I'm not sure either. But
Chai is Stuart Russell's group.
Yeah, let's say that group is definitely doing work there. But yeah, like you say, at Australia, there's not. I mean, you guys might be one of the few, maybe the only Australian safety group. I'm not sure.
But that's
true. That actually, over the last year or two, Dan has kind of emerged as someone that is, you could say, is working on this.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe Dan.
That's horrifying. Yeah. No. Some amateur sitting down here asking dumb questions is not doesn't count.
Yeah, I mean, Marcus. Well, I mean, so Marcus joined DeepMind while I was still his PhD student, so that made it a little awkward for me doing my PhD, but I managed to get through it in the end. And yeah, I don't think he is currently taking students, unfortunately. But yeah, so I would say those two groups at least. There was I think it was Less Wrong. There was a post like a month or two ago about like what it was. I think the post was what I think all these AI safety groups are doing. If you go through that like post, you'll see there's a few academic institutions on there. So maybe that is another good place to start.
Cool. Yeah, I think I might have seen that at the time. I'll take another look.
Yeah.
A sort of follow-up question. Sorry, I'm asking.
No.
Because I have to go. I have to go
fine.
soon. Yeah. So the follow-up question is: so you're now at DeepMind, and the other thing that leads me to ask is, what's sort of your take on working in AI safety in industrial research like at DeepMind versus in academia?
Yeah, I mean, like
so,
you said,
after the PhD.
Yeah, like you said, a lot of the people are now working at like institutions like DeepMind or OpenAI or these type of things instead of like going to academia and trying to supervise students and stuff. Although I think there are some people who are still trying to do that. Like I think Michael Cohen, when he finishes his PhD, is planning to go to academia, not industry. But I think, sorry. So your question was like, what is it like working in an institution on safety? Is that?
Yeah, I guess. What's your take on the comparison, or like, do you think you have more impact working at DeepMind compared to working at whatever options you would have had as in academia, rather than
to be blunt, I would say yes. I mean, you're closer to like the forefront, you're closer to like the cutting edge, all this kind of stuff, right? So I think so. You're able to work on a lot of things that you wouldn't like be able to work on if you were in academia. Not just like internal stuff, but like a lot of these big models you just can't run on a like university like compute basically.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's also the issue that in academia you'd have to spend 6 years convincing people who think your work is meaningless, pointless bullshit. To give care enough about it to give you a job, and you'll probably fail for a decade.
Exactly. Like, could you imagine writing like an ARC grant for like AI safety? What would that even?
Yeah, it's amazing. Marcus stuck it out as long as he did, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean,
so it seems like
the secret is to do it through a maths department, not a computer science department.
Or even maybe a field department might be.
I think it will be some time before math departments think AI safety is a legit field of study as well.
I think if we keep getting these weekly advances, I think the tide might turn.
Yeah,
this is getting a little off track, but did Marcus kind of come out on AI safety before or after going to DeepMind? Because he was working on algorithmic information theory then.
Has he ever come out on AI safety? When did that happen?
Oh, sorry. I mean, like, if Dan is classifying Marcus as working on AI safety, I don't think he would have been doing that when he was trying to get grants as a.
I don't think Marcus himself has ever like actively trying to work on AI safety, but it just so happens that many of his students like do their PhD, their work with him, and then move on to AI safety.
I see. Okay, well that's my bad. I guess I would have used. So the one paper we have looked at in the reading group is the one about the game theoretic analysis of the off switch game.
Oh yeah, the 2017 one. With the two Swedish guys. Like he's supervised his students doing AI safety work, definitely. And, helps them with it.
That's cool.
But like he's not usually the one. Like, he's much more interested in like AGI than like the safety. Okay. Although his contribution to AI safety might be like one of the biggest in the world, just for the sheer number of students he's made that like have done good work on this. So his indirect contribution has been very good, I think. I mean, of like the DeepMind work, the safety team publishes very often, right? So you'll see like these lists. I mean, the clarifying X risks, for example, posted by Zach, and yeah, I think at least, I mean, definitely with the safety team, they put out a lot of their work. Like they're very quick to publish, and they're very open to like external collaborations and all this kind of things. So I don't think there's a chance of that happening for safety at DeepMind, at least as far as I understand. Yeah, so I do think that, yeah, the lack of senior academic people may make it hard for students to get into this. I definitely can understand that for sure. But I think, people like you, Dan, and others are getting more interested in this, and maybe we'll have this new generation of senior academic people.
Yeah, I don't want to give the impression that I'm about to start seriously working on AI safety as a major area. I think I'm in a funny position which I imagine that I can't be the only one feeling this way, where things are moving so quickly that I've gone, a few years ago I was writing papers about deep RL agents and make them better, and now I'm kind of looking at every advance in transformers and thinking, well, maybe it wouldn't be so bad if things slowed down.
Yeah, but okay. Also, getting to the Miri one, I think Miri also publishes a lot of their problems. There was a 2016 paper, "Concrete Problems in AI Safety." That was pretty good, and I think they also pretty actively publish the things they're working on. And there was it? I can't remember. Maybe it was Richard No that published this. It was 30. It was pretty recently, 30 problems in AI safety currently, or something like this. But yeah, I think these people are still also engaging with the community and putting the open questions out, I guess.
Richard No was at Cambridge and then stopped doing his PhD and either went to do a PhD somewhere else or went into industry. I can't remember which.
I think, yeah, he went into. Let me have a look. I can't see. Okay. Anyway, we should move. What is any other questions? Let's keep going.
Yeah, thanks. That's all from me. Thank you so much for the talk. I've got to go. It was also nice to meet you. Thank you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, I have one final question, which is there's work inside Anthropic on a kind of regarding scaling laws, emergent capabilities, and how that relates to AI safety. And I'm wondering if there is. I've seen Marcus published, or maybe it wasn't published, but had some notes on power laws and distributions, like exotic properties of distributions that would give rise to emergent capabilities. I'm wondering, outside of Anthropic, if you know of much work that's sort of oriented around safety issues in the context of power laws specifically, like the neural scaling laws.
I think it's definitely a topic on everyone's mind, because this is what we expect to happen, right? We expect these bigger and bigger models to be released, so kind of be important if we understood this kind of stuff. I mean, people are definitely looking into it. I'm trying to think if there's a specific piece of work on it. I think for example, I'd say one thing that's got a lot of study at the moment is in context learning and transformers as a sort of one of these emergent properties, basically. But whether there's much safety, just trying to think. Oh, actually, I don't know if it counts, but maybe the Neil Nander's post on the grokking analysis. That was more about grokking, not necessarily power laws, but maybe it's a bit related. That was quite good, I think. I'm not sure off the top of my head more than more than that, but I think people are definitely looking into this for sure. But they might not call it power laws. That's the thing. So you can't just search power laws safety.
Sure.
But if you emergent properties of neural architecture or emergent properties of transformers or something like this, you might definitely come across some stuff.
All right. Any further questions for Elliot? Seems not. Yeah, thanks a lot, Elliot. That was very useful, and yeah, all the best.
Yeah, thank you.